It's exactly 3 minutes past the hour of 7 a.m. This is Smart Means Business. I welcome you to the show on a good morning. And of course, it's a very quiet, cold morning out there. Yes, and this is quite very beautiful. Since Uganda, we predominantly being an agricultural country, such beautiful rains provide a piece of hope to ensure that we can actually go plant our crops perfectly and get some more yields. And of course, right now we get into the news recap, where we take you through the previous day's news stories. And of course, we start with the construction of the main office of the Standard Gauge Railway. The government of Uganda, through the Ministry of Transport and Works, has embarked on constructing the main office for the Standard Gauge Railway. That's the main office in Namamve. The Chinese Exim Bank committed financing a section of Kampala, that's Malaba, 1,724 kilometers in Uganda, amounting to 45 trillion shillings. Let's have this report.
Engineer Perez Wamburu, the SGR project coordinator, said that the prospects of closing a financial deal with China Exim Bank in the coming months are high. While speaking with Smart 24 TV, he revealed that one of the major issues causing a delay in the construction of the Malaba-Kampala channel is the Naivasha-Kisumu Standard Gauge Railway, where the bank is financing the project.
Send a reminder to say we are getting ready to start the project. What is the level of your preparation? We are waiting for an answer. So the pursuit of the government of Uganda to establish, to develop the Standard Gauge Railway is still on. It is total. We don't have an option in terms of development of the railway. Our neighbors, the Kenya and Tanzania, have moved quite a mileage into the establishment and development of the Standard Gauge Railway, and therefore we cannot be left as an island, because when in the next few years, the volumes of cargo are estimated to move very high. Like, for example, as we talk, Mombasa Port alone is handling 36 million tons, and expect that by the end of the year this will have moved to 40 million tons. And when you project it 5-10 years to come, Uganda has no alternative but Standard Gauge Railway to be able to evacuate the cargo that will be moving from Mombasa into this country, for this country and for the other countries which are neighboring, like South Sudan, the DRC, Rwanda, and so on. So I want to emphasize that Uganda does not have any better option but to develop our portion of the Standard Gauge Railway project.
Furthermore, he also said that they have embarked on constructing the main office in Namamve to ease the transportation of cargo into East Africa.
For this section of the Standard Gauge Railway project, Malaba-Kampala, as far as we are concerned, who are implementing the project, and the government of Uganda, is going to be, the financing will come from the government of Uganda and the Chinese Exim Bank. So far, that has not changed. That has not changed. The government, they can have a conversation with the taxi company or government, but still there are other phases of the project, Standard Gauge project in Uganda. We have got 1,724 kilometers to do in Uganda alone. So, but this first phase, as far as we are concerned, I want to assure you that the thinking of the government has not changed. The partner, the preferred partner is China Exim Bank, until the China Exim Bank comes out and said, no, we have now lost steam and we are not going to finance. But as far as we are concerned, that commitment is still there.
His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni reveals that Uganda cannot construct Standard Gauge Railway without the support of Kenya. The current $5 billion investment levels for East Africa Community will boost the project with the help of the 5 trillion shillings from China Exim Bank.
Uganda cannot build a railway to the sea without the support of Kenya. Where do we pass? Economies have been growing at high rates of growth, 6%, 7%, 8%. But they have been growing without a railway system, without enough electricity, without even a good road network.
Construction of the main offices of the railway line, of course, in Namamve, right there. And this time around, the major purpose is focused on transportation of cargo, despite the transportation of the passengers. As you can see, it's going to ease the transportation of many other goods across the East African region, and this being a very key factor to unify and unite the East African region in terms of transportation of cargo. And also the fact that these majority of this cargo that is carried by the plane is quite bulky. Let me say that very heavy, and you find that it may not be appropriate to use a plane to cross over that cargo to other regions, or even it could be by the means of the road transportation. These are quite very, very, very heavy tons, and most cases you find that they are transporting minerals, copper, cobalt, and quite very heavy minerals. So this construction is going to be very beneficial in terms of promoting regional integration, in terms of economies of scale, where these countries are going to be enjoying those possible economies. And of course, remember that Uganda, amongst the East African countries, has the least kilometers of the railway lines, because recently about 658 kilometers were put under renovation. This is due to the long term that passed when it wasn't being used, and majority of this got a little bit in a bad state and it had to be renovated. And such moves of constructing a main office like in Namamve makes it really perfect and very profitable, and it's going to make it easy to transport the goods and services to promote the regional integration. But of course, we also look at the other side of the transportation of the passengers, the fact that it's a very cheap means of transport. We talk about the current fuel crisis and railway transport being one of the key solutions, the thing that the people are looking up to. And of course, the president of Uganda are sure to invest into the railways to ensure that they are scattered all over the country, because we have quite a few lines and some people may not be catered for. So there is that plan to expand the railway lines across the country to ensure transportation of people and also the goods and services. And now we cross over onto the loan fund expenditure. As the Committee of the National Economy, that's the members of Parliament of the Parliamentary Committee of the National Economy, have put the Finance Minister, that's Matia Kasaija, on the spot over government's poor absorption of borrowed funds. Kasaija carried part of the blame, but attributed the biggest poor implementation by the ministries and departments and agencies. Let's have this report.
According to a report on the public debt, grants and other financial liabilities for financial year 2021-22, the total disbursement of loans as of 31st December 2021 was $1,187 million, with the public sector transformation disbursing 36%, followed by integrated transport infrastructure at 33%. However, members of Parliament on the Committee of the National Economy have put the Finance Minister on the spot over some non-performing borrowed funds. The Minister for Finance, Matia Kasaija, accepted some of the allegations, but also blamed the ministries, agencies and departments.
Just reporting that this kick-starting off for a full year, that may mean that we get this money when we are not ready. And this is borrowed money, for heaven's sake. Why should we borrow when we are not ready? And more so disappointingly, when we talk of the internal domestic few challenges, we've been looking for the money. We now have it, but we cannot utilize it. Then it means that somewhere, somehow, there is a problem. Maybe you need to assign someone to have a staff to sit there and monitor and make sure that these offices are coordinated.
Not to be blamed. Is it the blame of the Minister, of the Minister of Agriculture, or is the Minister of Finance? Finance. So, I know time is not with us, but if you want to do a good, thorough job, and really I want you, Parliament, to help me. When I borrow this money under pressure, and the sector is not performing, is not absorbing, is not asking for the money. Very, 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 very demoralizing. So, me, subject to your ruling, it will be better that the sectors who are responsible are here and we are here. Okay.
The stock of the total public debt increased from $15.3 billion at the end of the June 2020 to $19.5 billion as at the end of June 2021, representing an increase of 27.4%. Much as government is taking efforts to ensure that debts remain sustainable, it shouldn't be forgotten that a higher debt stock comes with greater risks of debt distress and its macroeconomic consequences.
You borrow money here, 2019, 2020, 2021, a sector comes to an end when they have utilized the 10%, 20%. Are we moving? What are we? Are we a Committee of National Economy? Is this an economy or is somebody's home?
This has been the challenge for this country. When the president stands to make an address, he will say, my people disappointed me. But now we are in a blame game. Finance will blame agriculture, agriculture will blame finance, parliament will blame agriculture. It is not giving us results. And we have been in this circus for so many years. Maybe it is time to review our procedures and we do the right thing. Prime Minister, my people down there need these services that we are sitting on because of technicalities. An average person doesn't want to know who is wrong and who is right. They need implementation. And you are the Minister for Planning.
The Minister of Finance rejected the MP's appeal of desisting from borrowing before government accounts for borrowed funds.
They are right in a sense, but not completely right, because we should look at each case separately. We look at its merits and demerits. To say we cannot borrow is not. I don't want to borrow, sure, but with the needs in the economy and the situation especially we are now in, you cannot avoid total borrowing. I mean, you cannot totally avoid borrowing.
But when we are scrutinizing the performance of loans, we don't only look at how much you released. We also look at how much was released, how much was absorbed, and what is the physical performance. What we have discovered is that actually the Minister of Finance stops at approval of loans and releasing money. They don't know actually what is happening on the ground. They don't know the physical performance, they don't know the disbursement rate, which means that actually there can be a misuse of resources.
During the financial year 2021 to 22, 33% of the loan disbursement came from Afroxim Bank, 23% came from the International Association, 16% came from China, and 6% from African Development Bank, accounting for 9% of the loan disbursement.
That's the Committee of Economy of the National Members of Parliament putting the Minister of Finance, Matia Kasaija, on spot over the misuse of borrowed funds. And of course, something the Minister attributes to the different government agencies that don't distribute these funds appropriately when they are borrowed. And of course, it's very impossible for a nation to live, to sustain an economy without borrowing. But the most important thing that needs to be put into consideration is how do you use the borrowed funds, because at the end of the day it's important, regardless of how much money is borrowed, the citizens, the average person, all they want to see is implementation, just like an honorable made a statement right there, because people come to this place where there is too much of this that is borrowed and they don't see any implementation. So the members of parliament on the national economy came up to put the minister on spot, and of course the minister carried part of the blame, though he also largely attributed the performance of these loans to the different agencies where they are distributed. Of course, as a minister, the money is borrowed but distributed to the different departments that need this allocation of funds to ensure that they are distributed appropriately for economic growth and development. And now, as we wrap up, let's take a look at the reorganizing of the border industry. This has been something that has been running ever since this week began. Quite a very interesting topic. In the bid to streamline the border industry, only registered and trained border riders will be allowed to operate. That's in Kampala. To operate in Kampala, and Hajat Misa Kabanda, the Minister for Kampala, has outlined objectives to ensure the smooth operations within the border industry. This follows the launch of the border census by David Luyimbazi, the Deputy Executive Director of the Kampala City Council Authority. Let's have this story.
In February, the State Minister for Kampala Capital City and Metropolitan Affairs, Kabuye Fatogabye, directed all border riders operating within the city centre to register with the government by March 1st. This was to reduce the number of riders operating within the city, which is over 35,000. However, the registration exercise did not meet the deadline. Earlier this week, the KCCA commenced the border census, which has not been executed as the proposed time. The Minister for Kampala has outlined the objectives of the border census.
This exercise is intended to achieve the following: the fulfillment of National Security Council recommendation of 2019 of ensuring the streamlining of border usage in the country. This requires the documentation of all riders and their motorcycles. Number 2, training of riders for proper use on the road. All riders to have reflector jackets with barcodes for easy identification. All riders to have permits, those are driving permits. All local government to designate and gazette identifiable stages for their operation. Because we're talking about Kampala District and Kampala Metropolitan. We need to separate registration and training of motorcycles, because we've been mixing them up.
The KCCA has also outlined the hindrances that have resulted in the untimely execution of the exercise.
There's been very little activity regarding the census since Monday. It is correct. There's been little or no activity since Monday. We're just beginning to pick up this morning. There have been challenges regarding the location of the census points. Some of the locations didn't have power. Some of them didn't have internet. And we had to also install our IT infrastructure in these locations. And we also had to train data entrance. These processes took a little bit of time. But as we speak now, 50% of the census points that have been communicated to the public are operational.
On July 26th, Prime Minister Robin Anabanja initiated training for motorcyclists to formalize their occupation, an aspect rendered by the stakeholders before commencing the census.
This does training. The 35,000 plus that have been registered are part of those that have been registered but not yet trained. Now we have those who have registered and gone on to train. Those are the 10,000 that we have here. So not everyone who has been registered has gone on to train.
Once the census is complete, the government shall announce the gazetted stages from which riders will be assigned an operating stage with the Traffic and Road Safety Regulation for Motorcycles 2016.
Reorganizing the border industry. Remember early this week, there was on Monday, the Kampala City Council Authority launched a census. Of course, it's not the first time registration of borders has been put in place. It started quite a way months back. It was in February, but it's been going through the different phases. So early this week, there was a launch of a census to ensure that they reduce the operation of the border personnel from over 35,000 to over 7,000, to 7,000, about 7,000 to operate in Kampala. That's of course purposely to control congestion. The exercise was supposed to start, that was on Tuesday, but surprisingly it's only one division that might have executed this task. That was Luwaga division, and majority of the places the registration wasn't ongoing. And of course, this caused quite lots of controversies amongst the industry players, and also including the authorities. That's the stakeholders with Kampala City Council Authority. But of course, the Minister for Kampala outlined the objectives, and he said that before this census is done, there ought to be things that should be done fast. And also, she went ahead into that statement to talk about what the justification of this census, which had quite a lot of controversies and quite so many questions amongst the different people out there asking themselves, why are we doing this? We've been doing this for over time. We've signed quite lots and lots of documents. What's going on? So she had to come out and justify. And of course, the Kampala City Council Authority admitted and also came out to say the hindrances that caused the untimely implementation of the exercise, which is going to be sorted, and the exercise is ongoing. The census is ongoing. And of course, this comes along with the training that was launched by the Prime Minister of Uganda, that's Robin Anabanja, way back, about training the border cyclists to ensure that they are professional into their job, to make the job formal. So all these exercises is for the good of the border industry, despite the challenges that are being faced here and there. And of course, if you just joined us right now, I'll give you just a brief highlight of where we started from. We had something from the construction of the main offices of the Uganda, of the railway, of the gauge railway. That's the main offices in Namambe. Yes, and of course, this is meant to link Kampala and Malaba to ease the transportation of cargo. And also, we had something on the loans expenditure, as the members of the Parliament on the National Economy Committee put the Minister of Finance, Matia Kasaija, on spot over the misuse of borrowed funds. And of course, the minister took part of the blames, though he attributed another part to the agencies and departments that are responsible for implementing once these funds are borrowed and they passed through to those different departments for allocation. The part of the blame was carried to that. And of course, we finally wrapped it up with a reorganization of the border industry, as the Minister for Kampala, that's Minister Kabanda, came up to outline the objectives of the border census. And of course, that's what we had for you for the recap this morning. Jerome Paul Sonko is right here to drive you through the show, and I'll be joining you on Smart Means Business on Ground. Stick around. Good morning.